It was one of those late, sultry afternoons in a small, dusty town, where the pace was slow to get people out of the burning sun. The road which cut the town asunder was deserted, save for the intermittent roar of trucks that passed, raising storms of dust. Beneath an acacia tree that was not so young anymore sat a young boy, Alex, hunched over, drawing something on his old notebook. He loved to draw, for it was his means of escape from the drabness of his daily routine. But today, Alex's sketching was interrupted by something unusual. He heard a commotion down the road, the sound of a car engine sputtering, followed by an exasperated yell. Curiosity piqued, Alex put down his pencil and stood, squinting towards the source of the noise. What he saw was a sight rarely seen in this part of town: a sleek, expensive car parked on the side of the road, its hood up, and a man in an immaculate white suit pacing back and forth, looking thoroughly out of place. The man, clearly agitated, was shouting into his phone. "What do you mean you can't send anyone until tomorrow? Do you have any idea who I am?" he barked, his face growing redder by the second. Alex could tell from the man's accent and the gleaming car that he wasn't from around here. He probably was some rich type who owned some vacation property out in the country somewhere and thus expected everything to work just as it did in the city. Alex approached cautiously. His curiosity got the better of him. As he drew closer, he saw something quite odd. The man was hopping on one leg, waving his arms and swatting at something near his legs. "Get off, you stupid!" "Ow!" yelped the man, and Alex's eyes widened as he saw a snake slithering away into the bushes, its body patterned with ominous dark stripes. The man groaned in pain and slumped against the side of his car, his face draining of color. "Oh no," he muttered, shaking. He looked up and saw Alex just standing there, his eyes wide with terror. "Kid. I've been bitten." Without a second thought, Alex sprang into action. He ran over, crouching beside the man. "Stay calm, sir. I've seen my grandpa handle snake bites before," he said as his voice was amazingly composed for one so young. He quickly took off his own belt, using it as a makeshift tourniquet just above the bite. The man winced, but Alex was focused, hands moving quickly as he worked. Who are you?" the man stammered. "Alex," the young lad said flatly. "You gotta calm down, alright? Panic's only gonna make things worse." The man stared at Alex, his expensive suit now covered in dust, his neatly combed hair disheveled. He had come to this remote place expecting a quiet weekend away from the stress of his business empire, not to be saved by a barefoot kid in torn shorts. It was a humbling experience, to say the least. Finally, after several tense minutes, Alex was able to flag down a passing truck. Its driver was an older man with a kind face who quickly assessed the situation and helped them load the injured stranger into his vehicle. "Hang in there, buddy. We'll get you to the clinic," he said, giving Alex an approving nod. "You did good, kid." Alex watched the truck disappear into the distance, leaving him to himself on the dusty road. He turned to the abandoned luxury car, whose polished surface was now covered in a fine layer of grime. Shaking his head with a small smile, he picked up his notebook and went back to his spot under the acacia tree, resuming his sketching as if nothing out of the ordinary had happened. The next day, the town was abuzz with rumors. Word had gone around about the millionaire who had been bitten by a snake and the brave boy who had come to his rescue. People whispered about the fancy car still parked on the side of the road and about the stranger who had been taken to the clinic. But Alex didn't pay much heed to the gossip. There was work to do, and he wasn't one to sit and mull over events already past. That is, until a sleek black Maybach rolled into town, shiny, and in marked contrast to the dust around it. It moved at a slow gait, drawing to its rear the gaze of each person it passed. Stopping directly in front of Alex's house, the door swung open to reveal the man from yesterday, looking considerably more fit, though now with his arm in a sling. Alex, who was sweeping the front yard, stopped, his eyes wide as he watched the man approach. "Hey, kid," the man called out, a smile spreading across his face. "Remember me?" Alex blinked, nodding slowly. Yeah? You're the guy from yesterday. How's your leg?" The man chuckled, his eyes flicking down to the sling. "It's better thanks to you." He waved his good hand toward the car. Alex's jaw nearly dropped at what he saw in the back, a brand new bicycle gleaming in the sunlight, a shiny red bow tied onto the handlebars. This is for you," he said softly. "I don't know how to thank you enough for what you did. You saved my life, kid. The least I could do was get you something in return." Alex stared at the bicycle, his mouth open and closing, trying to say something. "But I was just doing what anyone would do," he finally managed to say, his voice barely above a whisper. The man shook his head, sincerity now in his face. "Not everyone would have stepped up the way you did. Most people would have run the other way. You stayed. You helped. And for that, I'm grateful." Alex hesitated, then stepped forward, his fingers brushing against the handlebars of the bicycle. It was unlike anything he'd ever seen, sleek, with shiny chrome details and thick tires that looked like they could handle anything. He looked up at the man, his eyes wide. "Thank you," he said, his voice filled with awe. "I don't know what to say." The man smiled, patting Alex on the shoulder. "Just promise me one thing, all right? Keep being the kind of person who helps others, no matter what. The world needs more people like you." Alex nodded, pride welling in his heart. He watched the man get back into the Maybach, the purring engine rolling away to leave a cloud of dust. The neighbors, who had gathered to watch, broke into applause, cheering for Alex as he stood there, still in shock. "Looks like you are a hero now, Alex," someone said, and Alex could not but smile, becoming pink with embarrassment. Yet, it's not as if everyone has had a problem with Alex. Across the street, another young boy stands scowling as he watches them. That's Jared, a boy to whom everyone at their little town has looked up, quick at running, at soccer, all this stuff they think makes something from someone. And now it's this Alex kid. The kid who liked drawing. What's so special about him, anyway? Jared muttered to himself, his hands clenching into fists. It was just a snake. Anyone could have done what he did. But deep down, Jared knew that wasn't true. He knew that if it had been him on that road, he probably would have run the other way. And that realization only made his resentment grow. As the crowd started to dissipate, Alex wheeled his new bicycle towards his house, his heart still racing with excitement. He had never owned anything so nice, and he couldn't wait to take it for a ride. But as he turned to go inside, he caught sight of Jared standing across the street, glaring at him. Alex paused, gave a little wave to Jared. "Hey Jared, come see the bike?" he called, his tone friendly. Jared faltered, his scowl deepening. A moment, it seemed he might say yes, then he shook his head and turned away without a word. Alex watched him go, a pang of sadness tugging at his heart. He didn't understand why Jared was so upset, but he hoped that maybe, just maybe, things would change. After all, if a millionaire could show up in their tiny town and give him a bicycle, then anything was possible. The next few days were a blur of emotions for Alex. Everywhere he went, people were talking about him. His friends in school were much eager to listen to the story, and would ask repeatedly to recount the story about how he had saved a millionaire. The teachers themselves, usually stern, let him go wherever he would pass. The whole of it was overwhelming, although Alex was very grateful. Yet somehow, in his innermost mind, he wished for things to turn back into normalcy again. But the attention wasn't the only thing that had changed. This shiny new bicycle had turned into a source of both joy and discomfort for Alex. He loved riding on it, feeling the wind in his face as he rode down the dusty roads. At the same time, though, he could feel the eyes of others on him, watching as he rode by. Some of those looks were filled with admiration, but others like Jared's held resentment. One afternoon, Alex decided to take his new bike for a ride out of town, to where the fields stretched endlessly under the bright blue sky. It was his favorite place to be, away from the noise and the staring, where he could just be himself. He pedaled hard, his legs pumping as he raced along the dirt path, the landscape blurring around him. For one brief instant, he felt free, as if he were flying. But then, At the top of a small rise, Alex saw something that made him break. There, at the bottom of the hill, sat Jared on a rock, his head hung low, frustration written on his face. Alex hesitated and considered turning around, but something about Jared's posture stopped him. He couldn't just leave. Alex took a deep breath and guided his bike down the hill, stopping a few feet away from Jared. "Hey," he called out, his voice tentative. "You okay?" Jared looked up and his eyes narrowed as he saw Alex. He didn't say anything at first, he just looked away, focusing on the shiny bicycle beside Alex. "What do you want?" he muttered. His voice sounded defensive. Alex shrugged, lowering the kickstand with a thump and stepping off the bike. "I just wanted to see if you were alright. You looked upset." Jared scorned him, crossing his arms over his chest. "Why do you care? You're the big hero now, right? Everyone loves you. You don't need to worry about me." Alex frowned, taking a step closer. "Come on, Jared. It's not like that. I didn't ask for any of this. I was just in the right place at the right time." Jared looked away, his jaw clenched. "Yeah, well, some of us never get that kind of chance," he muttered, barely loud enough to hear. "Some of us are just stuck." A moment of silence passed between them, save the soft rustling of the wind through the tall grass. Alex watched Jared, his heart aching as he realized just how much his friend was struggling. He had always looked up to Jared the way he seemed so confident, so sure of himself. But now, seeing him like this, Alex realized that Jared wasn't as invincible as he had always seemed. Alex slowly sat down on the ground beside Jared, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "You know," he started off softly, "I used to think you were the bravest person I knew. You were always the fastest, the strongest. Everyone looked up to you. I guess. I just never realized that maybe you needed help sometimes too." Jared looked at Alex, his eyes softening somewhat. "I don't need help," he said, his voice unconvincing. Alex smiled a small, gentle smile. "Well, maybe not. But I could use a friend. It's been kinda weird, all this attention. I don't know how to handle it." He paused, then added, "I miss when things were normal. When we could just hang out without all this stuff in the way." Jared was quiet for a long time, staring at the ground. He finally let out a long sigh, uncrossing his arms. "Yeah," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I miss that too." Alex grinned and leaned forward, playfully pushing Jared on the shoulder. "So, how about we go for a ride? You can take my bike for a bit if you want. I could use a break from all the attention it brings." Jared's eyes widened in surprise, and he looked at Alex, his expression a mix of disbelief and gratitude. You'd let me ride it?" Alex nodded, getting up and extending the bike towards Jared. "Yeah. It's just a bike, after all. Besides, I think it looks better with a daredevil like you on it." Jared wavered a moment, and then stood slowly. A soft, small smile tugged at the corners of his lips as he took the bike in his hands. Fingers brushed against handlebars, hardly believing it. "Thanks, Alex," he said quite seriously. "I mean it." Alex nodded, stepping back as Jared climbed onto the bike. He watched as Jared took off down the path, his laughter echoing in the open air, the tension between them seeming to melt away with each turn of the wheels. Alex felt a sense of relief wash over him. Things might not be exactly like they were before, but maybe, just maybe, they could find a new kind of normal. As Jared rode, Alex ran along beside him, the two boys laughing and racing across fields, for the first time in several days, finally without the pressure of events bearing down. For the first time since the incident, Alex was himself once again, not a hero, not anything special, just a kid, having fun with his friend. Later, as the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Jared skidded to a stop beside Alex, his chest heaving as he grinned. "You know, I think I get why you like this bike so much," he said, his eyes bright with excitement. "It's pretty awesome." Alex chuckled, nodding. "Yeah, it is. But it's even better when you get to share it." Jared handed the bike back to Alex, his smile dimming slightly as he looked down at the ground. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice sincere, "for being such a jerk. I was just jealous, I guess. It felt like everyone forgot about me." Alex shook his head, laying a hand on Jared's shoulder. "No one forgot about you, Jared. You don't have to save a millionaire to be important. You're still the guy everyone looks up to. And you're still my friend. That's what counts." Jared looked up, his eyes meeting Alex, and for the first time in days, he smiled a real, genuine smile. "Thanks, Alex," he said. "I guess I needed to hear that." They came back into town, the two boys walking side by side, the bike rolling between them, their laughter carried on the wind. The sun had long since set below the horizon, the first stars starting to sparkle above, their gentle light casting a different hue on the dusty road. It was not as it was before, but that was enough. And as Alex looked over at Jared, he felt a sense of hope. Maybe things changed, but some things, like friendship, were strong enough to weather any storm. And that, Alex knew, was worth more than any bicycle or applause could ever be. It felt as if things had finally gone back to their normal pace for this little town a week following Alex and Jared's reconciliation. The excitement concerning the heroism of Alex began to die down at that time, and his new bicycle, though proud to behold, was now more commonly overlooked. Alex really just hoped all would stay so until his dying day, if he only knew his world was in for some aftershocks. One afternoon, while sitting under the old acacia tree, sketching the fields and the faraway hills, Alex heard the low growl of an approaching car. He looked up, his pencil pausing in mid-stroke, as his eyes widened to see a familiar black Maybach roll down the dusty road, its polished surface gleaming in the sun. He stood, his heart pounding with a mix of excitement and curiosity as the car pulled to a stop right in front of him. The door opened, and out stepped the same man from before, still looking as polished as ever, though now with a warm smile on his face. He approached Alex, giving him a nod of acknowledgement. "Alex, my boy," the man called out, his voice full of energy. "I hope you've been enjoying that bicycle." Alex nodded, his face spreading into a grin. "Yes, sir, I have." "Thank you again, it means much to me." The man waved his hand dismissively. "No need to thank me again. You earned it." But he paused, a glimmer of mischief in his eyes. "I thought maybe you'd like something more. Something a little different." He gestured towards the back seat of the car, and Alex's jaw dropped for the second time in a week. There stood a man in a perfect chauffeur's uniform, holding a big, wonderfully wrapped box. He walked over to Alex, holding it out to him, smiling. "For you," he said briefly and stepped back. Alex looked at the box, then lifted his gaze to the millionaire. He was confused. "What's this?" his wonder asked. The man grinned. "Open it and find out." With delicacy, Alex set the box down, then untied the ribbon. He raised the lid of his box to reveal his treasure inside, an artist set, perfect in quality and completeness. Colored pencils, charcoals, paints, and their brushes, each was inserted nicely in its nice wooden casing. More elaborate by far than he had ever seen or even owned in his whole life. His hands slight-on quivered while his fingers danced across the smooth-handled brushes as his brain whirred. "I heard from some of the people in the area that you like to draw," he said now with a softer voice. "I wanted to give you something that would further it, maybe even enjoy it. You never know, it may be hanging someday in galleries around the world." Alex looked up at the man. His eyes shone with gratitude. I don't know what to say," he stammered. "This is incredible." "Thank you." The man patted Alex on the shoulder. "Just promise me you'll keep drawing, all right? You're a talented young man, and the world could use more beauty." Alex nodded, his heart swelling with emotion. "I promise," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. The millionaire smiled and then turned back towards the car. "Oh, and one more thing," he added, almost as an afterthought. "How would you like to visit the city sometime? I have an art gallery downtown that I think you'd enjoy. Perhaps you could bring a few of your sketches?" Alex's eyes widened in disbelief. "The city? Me?" he asked, his voice filled with awe. The man chuckled. Of course, you. Why not? He'll send the car for you this weekend. It'll be fun, I promise. Alex was too stunned to say a word, and before he could get his wits together, the man was back in the Maybach, the purring of the engine firing up as he waved out the window. I'll see you soon, Alex? He called out before the car sped away, leaving Alex standing there, the art set in his hands, his mind reeling with excitement and disbelief. In no time, news of the millionaire's visit spread, and the whole town seemed to know by the next day that Alex had been invited to the city. His friends from school barraged him with questions. Their eyes went wide with envy and excitement. You're really going to the city? One of them asked, his tone full of awe. That's amazing, Alex? Alex nodded, but even he couldn't really fathom it. Yeah, I guess I am, he stammered, sounding slightly nervous. The city, an art gallery, everything was so overwhelming. He had never been outside the place where he grew up and thus felt butterflies in his tummy just thinking of heading into the big city. Jared nodded at him from where he stood beside him. You're gonna do great, Alex, he said, the most serious his voice had sounded all evening. I mean, look at all the stuff you've already done. You're meant for this. Alex smiled back at Jared, grateful that his friend was so supportive. Thanks, Jared. I just hope I don't make a fool of myself. Jared shook his head. You won't. Just be yourself. That's what got you here in the first place, right? Alex nodded, taking a deep breath. Jared was right. All he had to do was be himself. And with that thought in mind, he began to feel a little less nervous and a lot more excited. The weekend then flew in so fast, and before he knew it, that sleek black Maybach again sat parked before his house. Mom fussed over him as always, making sure shirt was tucked in properly and all hair combed. You look so handsome. Her eyes brimmed with pride. You make sure to thank that nice man again, all right? And be on your best behavior. Alex nodded, giving his mom a quick hug before stepping into the car. The interior was plush, the seats soft and comfortable, and Alex couldn't help but feel a little out of place as he settled in. The chauffeur gave him a kind smile through the rearview mirror before starting the engine and pulling away from the house. The drive into town was another experience entirely. The roads started getting wider, the building height increased, and suddenly open fields were turned to crowded streets lined with both people and cars. Wide-eyed, Alex was mesmerized by what was across his path. His heart started beating with excitement. He certainly had seen pictures of city life, but to actually experience it firsthand was something altogether different. They pulled up in front of a large building with high glass windows, and the chauffeur opened the door for Alex, gesturing for him to get out. Welcome to the gallery, young man, he said, his tone formal yet warm. Alex stepped out, his eyes wide as he looked up at the grand entrance. He clutched his sketchbook tightly, feeling a mix of nerves and excitement as he followed the chauffeur inside. The gallery was even more magnificent than he had imagined. High ceilings, gleaming floors, and walls adorned with beautiful paintings and sculptures. The millionaire was waiting for him near the entrance, his smile wide as he saw Alex. There you are. Come on, let me show you around, he said, placing a hand on Alex's shoulder and guiding him through the gallery. Alex followed, his eyes darting from one piece of art to another, his heart swelling with inspiration. They stopped in front of a huge painting, a landscape, similar to the fields that Alex used to draw so many times. The millionaire pointed at it with a soft voice. You see this, Alex? This is painted by an artist who began exactly like you. He was a kid, interested in the arts and never gave up. Nowadays, his pictures decorate many galleries around the world. Alex stared at the painting, his eyes tracing the brushstrokes, the colors blending together to create something beautiful. He felt a lump rise in his throat as he realized that maybe, just maybe, he could do something like this too. The millionaire now turned to Alex, his expression solemn. Let me make this very clear. You can do anything you set your mind to. You have a gift, Alex, and I want to help you share that gift with the world. Alex looked up at the man. His eyes shone with emotion. Thank you, he whispered, his voice thick. Thank you for believing in me. The millionaire smiled, giving Alex's shoulder a soft squeeze. It's my pleasure, Alex. Now, let's see those sketches of yours. I have a feeling there's something special. With trembling hands, Alex opened his large sketchbook, showing him the fields, the hills, and the people of his town. The millionaire carefully examined each one in great detail, nodding approvingly. These are great, Alex. They really are. You can just capture the beauty in even the mundane. Alex looked a bit blushed, as he could feel a grin working its way onto his lips. I just draw what I see, he said simply. The millionaire nodded. And that's precisely what makes them so special. You see the world in a way others don't. And that's what makes you an artist. As they walked through the gallery, Alex felt a sense of purpose growing within him. He wasn't just some kid from a small town. He was an artist, with a story to tell and a world to share. And with the millionaire's support, with the encouragement of his friends and family, Alex knew anything was possible. With the sun setting and a golden hue over the city, Alex stepped out of the gallery with his heart full. Now he had a new dream, a dream to share his art with the world, to capture the beauty around him and show it to others. As he got back into the Maybach, with the city lights twinkling around him, he knew this was just the beginning of an incredible journey.